Hello, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story about how a corporate dress code managed to spark a huge national debate. And more importantly, what that whole firestorm reveals about a really significant gap in Indian law, a gap that leaves millions of us in a kind of legal gray area at work.
So it all kicked off with this one simple question. What does it mean to look professional? The whole thing started when an internal document from a major Indian company, Lenskart, got leaked online and, well, things escalated. Fast.
Okay, so take a look at this. This is the policy that caused all the trouble. What's so interesting here is how specific it is. You see, it allowed some religious expressions, like a hijab or a turban, as long as they were black. But then, it outright prohibited others that are really common in the Hindu faith, like the bindi and the tilak. And it was this apparent double standard that just lit the fuse on social media.
Right, so how on earth does a pretty standard-looking HR document blow up into a national controversy? Let's get into the timeline of what happened.
Well, the company's reaction to the leak was interesting. At first, the CEO just flat out denied it, saying the document was old and inaccurate. But, this is the internet. People on X quickly pointed out that the document was actually recent. So the story had to change. The CEO then came back and admitted it was a lapse, which, honestly, just added more fuel to the fire.
And the public reaction? It was swift and it was fierce. The call to boycott Lenskart started trending almost immediately. Thousands of people were accusing the company of hypocrisy and, more seriously, of discriminating against India's Hindu majority.
All of this brings us to a really crucial question. Beyond all the noise on social media, what can an employee actually do in a situation like this? What are the legal options?
And this is where things get really fascinating, because we pivot from a PR crisis to a major legal problem. You'd think there'd be a clear path, right? But the truth is, trying to legally challenge a private company in India for religious discrimination is, well, it's incredibly difficult.
You see, the whole issue comes down to this fundamental line drawn in Indian law. Our Constitution has powerful protections against discrimination, but they're primarily designed to protect us from the state, the government and its agencies. They don't automatically apply to private companies, and that creates this huge legal gray zone.
And this slide really lays out the problem perfectly. The tools you'd think would work just don't. The constitutional rights don't apply. And to use something like the criminal code, you have to prove deliberate intent. That means proving the company intentionally set out to hurt religious feelings. That's a nearly impossible bar to clear when a company can just say, "Oops, our mistake, it was just an oversight."
So if it's not always some evil, deliberate plan, why does this sort of thing keep happening? Well, there's a really compelling theory that points to a common and deeply flawed HR practice. People call it the copy-paste problem. Think of it like using a travel adapter, but for culture. In the West, a company policy often starts with a default of Western business attire, and then it makes special accommodations for minority faiths to promote diversity. The problem is, when an Indian HR department just copies and pastes that template, the logic gets flipped on its head. It ends up imposing a Western standard on the majority population, while minority expressions are treated as the special cases. And the result is this incredibly jarring double standard. One group, the majority, is being held to a foreign idea of professionalism, while another group is being protected under the banner of diversity and inclusion. It just doesn't sit right.
Now, this gap in Indian law becomes even more obvious. It's practically glaring when you compare it to how other major economies handled this exact same issue.
Let's just take a quick look at the United States and the United Kingdom. It's a totally different world. Both countries have specific, powerful laws that make it absolutely clear that protections against religious discrimination apply to private companies. There's no gray area here.
In the U.S., for example, the Civil Rights Act does more than just say, "Don't discriminate." It puts an active duty on employers. It says they must provide reasonable accommodation for an employee's religious beliefs, unless it creates an undue hardship for the business. It's proactive.
And over in the UK, the Equality Act is just as crystal clear. It lists religion or belief as a protected characteristic. That puts it on the exact same legal level as race, gender, or disability. So, discriminating based on someone's faith is explicitly illegal for any employer, period.
So when you place those strong, clear international laws side by side with the situation here in India, well, the reality of our own system becomes starkly clear.
And this really is the heart of the matter.
India simply lacks a direct, specific, and easily enforceable law to protect private sector employees from religious discrimination. It's not a small loophole. It's a massive, systemic legal void where a crucial protection should be.
Which brings us right back to where we started. When the formal legal system offers almost no help, we have to ask a pretty tough question. Is a public firestorm on social media the only real court of appeal left for millions of Indian employees?